So the Hurricane conceptually has been around for some time. It actually went through concept work right as I was in the middle of production for the Caterpillar. And that ship's whole purpose is to sort of be a bit of a glass cannon.
We wanted a turret-centric fast attack ship. So it has a custom turret mount on it where it has a couple more guns than we normally put on a manned turret. And then that turret is bolted onto a sleek, fast airframe that will be able to get a good top speed without being too imbalanced in its own self.
Its job is to fly right into combat, bring in massive amounts of firepower, and then try to get out before things go wrong, essentially.
It's not going to be the most nimble handling ship. It'll be capable, but it's really going to be set to make sure that the pilot is lining up their turret gunner for the best possible shots, so the turret gunner can just unload with the massive cannon array up there. And when I say massive, the ship right now is spec'd at a total of 6 size 3 guns. So 2 of those being on the ship itself, that could be either a gimbaled size 2 or the fixed size 3s. And then 4 size 3 guns on the turret itself that can just point and scream in something's direction and make it disappear.
There's a couple of key things that we tried to stick to with Anvil. Specifically, their fighters, they have features on them that are pretty identifiable, which is somewhere on the ship towards the body, they tend to have a sort of a ring type of design. So if you look at the Hornet, you've got the ball turret in the back, and that gives you sort of the ring motif on it. The Hurricane has the same thing. It's got the turret, the actual man turret in the back, which has that. The Gladiator also has an exhaust in the back, which is that sort of same type of shape. They also tend to have oversized intakes on the sides of the cockpit. That's kind of something that they do. And they have blunt noses. So their ships don't tend to end on a smooth nose. It's usually chopped off. So it's like sort of a flat nose. Then we've also got other things which are really cool, where our lighting setup for Anvil is very high contrast, cold and hot. So what that means is that inside of Anvil ships, you'll notice that it's mostly sort of a cool blue, and those are the lights that we'll have. And then the points of interest will be highlighted with bright red lights. And that gives you a nice contrast in there, which is pretty cool. And it's pretty unique to Anvil. They're the ones who tend to do that the most.
So the turret assembly on the Hurricane is really going to be its defining characteristic, where it's a bespoke setup for that ship, where Anvil has other ships with turrets out there. The Super Hornet has a remote turret setup. The Gladiator has a little manned trouble bubble on the back of it. But the Hurricane is very much the core of this ship's armament and its killing potential is going to be built into that turret housing. So making sure that it's going to be as just vicious as possible for the damage it has to put out.
Specifically, and mechanically, it's taking a lot of inspiration from the Gladiator. So the Gladiator has, it's a bit of a controversial feature, but it's got a bottom-loading pilot seat and gunner seat. And so this ship has the same thing. So you've got a bottom-loading pilot seat. What that means is, in order to get into the ship, you don't climb into it the way you do a typical fighter. The seat itself descends from above. So you go under the ship, you look up, you say, I want to get into this ship, and then the seat comes down on a bit of an elevator sort of rig. You sit on it and then strap in, and it pulls you right in, and then comes to life as you enter the cockpit. So the same thing happens with the gunner. So both load in from the bottom. What's cool about this ship, though, is that there's quite a bit of space between the pilot and the gunner. And so there's no interference on the Hurricane getting in and out independently. So you have complete freedom to get in as the gunner, you have complete freedom to get in as the pilot, and they don't interfere with each other.
So do you want to do a strafing run against a ground installation? You may want a Hurricane. Do you want a couple of just like forward attack ships before you send in a larger fleet to soften up some hard targets? You may want a Hurricane because you have say you're coming against an enemy Idris. Well, send 2 or 3 Hurricanes down and just pepper the sides of it. Do some strike passes against it. Don't try and just sit in front of it and keep shooting. but keep doing some passes against it, and you're going to start chipping that thing down while the rest of your force gets up there, and it's like, all right, now we're going to just blow up this capital ship because these hurricanes have helped weaken it and just drain its combat potential.
What's also really cool about the Hurricane is that in addition to having the bottom-loaded elevator rig, we are planning to find a way to allow you to sort of EVA out of the ship through the canopy as well. So you'd be able to sort of slowly get out without having to use the elevator to get out. Now that's not currently set up, but that's sort of what we're trying to accomplish with it. And we're also attempting to accomplish ejection on both the gunner and the pilot. So if you really need to get out in a pinch, just press the button, it'll shoot you straight out.